by calling in at 315-443-2011 or check out our YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
A lot to look forward to with this Orange team. An 80-50 win over Drexel. It's the first time since the Harry Truman administration that Syracuse has held its first three opponents to 50 points or less. That's some dominant defense. And if you have something on we want to hear from you because we can only say so much. You really can't say enough about how good this defense has been. You can also interact with us on social media at WAER Sports Talk on Twitter or on our YouTube live stream at WAER Sports Talk. Alex, just the effort, I compared to last year, this team feels like a Ferrari to last year's Corolla, if you will.
I mean, compared to the last couple of years, just what this team is possibly doing on defense. And yes, these are mid-major, low-major opponents, and it seemed for the first 20 minutes like that all might have been thrown out the window. But when you hold a team to 18 points in the second half, and I don't think that really tells the full story because SC put their subs in, and it got a little iffy at the end.
It was like 5 garbage time points at least.
It took 14 minutes in the second half for Drexel to score 10 points.
That's ridiculous. There was a stretch of 8 minutes where they didn't score at all. I don't care who you're playing, and I know it's just Drexel, and I know that's going to be the main thing that national media is going to use to sleep on Syracuse even more. Oh, they beat Binghamton, Delaware State, and Drexel.
But all high major teams are playing
exactly.
Like everyone.
How can we say that a number 7 team that's like blowing out Southeast Oklahoma State they're actually really good, but Syracuse isn't due to level of competition? And another reason we can put that argument to bed, too, is, Binghamton and Delaware State, not good teams. Drexel, not the best team either. They are 1-3, but they do things well. And we saw it in the first half. They are a team that plays slow, and they forced Syracuse to play that game, too. It was two teams with two different philosophies kind of going at it today. And first it was Drexel who kind of enacted their will. If you have a team that's really good at one thing and you can reverse that, that's a good positive sign for Syracuse. Yes, you beat Drexel, but you beat a Drexel team that's good at slowing things down. You played their game and then eventually were able to go in and force your will. That's the sign of a dominant team.
Well, I think Syracuse, I don't know what Adrian Autry said at halftime, but kind of remembered, oh, wait, we're the ACC team. We're the top 100 team in the country.
Right.
We're the team that should be controlling the entire pace of this game. Obviously, when it was that half-court defense, slow game, Syracuse didn't have that same offensive mojo. But then the second half, and I think the real turning point was around 14 minutes. Sadiq White had some free throws, then he forced a steal, and he got the points. And then right after that, while Drexel was trying to inbound it, Syracuse went to that full-court press, and you could see it in the eyes of the Drexel players. What is happening?
Fear.
I mean, they had to call a timeout, and it was just a complete momentum shift. And it was in that moment that this game went from, these are two teams playing on neutral court to, this is Syracuse basketball playing their game on the road and really making some havoc.
And I think it really can't be overstated how important that full court press is. It's a reason why Syracuse, even when they were beating teams like Buffalo in the preseason and teams like Delaware State and Binghamton, they went to it. They were up big and they still went to the full court press. Not only does that kind of play a mental game with your opponent, but it practices your conditioning as well. When you can run up and down the floor, it's kind of an extension of those summer programs where they were probably doing wind sprints. When you can put it in real game action and really step on the throat of your opponent, you can't leave any room for error if you want to make the tournament. And by conditioning yourself and showing that you are capable of forcing turnovers and making your opponent uncomfortable, then you will have the markings of a good team. And yes, they beat Drexel, but this is a good Syracuse team. That can't be denied at this point of the season.
And, I mean, this is the time that you want to be practicing it. You don't want to be throwing out this full court
when you have to do it
against Clemson with 5 minutes left
and you're like down by
5-point game.
Right.
No, you want to be doing it when you're up double digits comfortably against a team. And, okay, let's say they break it. And we even saw this early on in the scrimmages, in some early season games. Teams will get past the full court press occasionally, but this is when you want them to be doing doing
And
this.
then even at that point, when they pass it, oh my goodness, 7 seconds just went off the shot clock. Now they have to speed it up, and Syracuse can make them play more desperate. That was really the biggest difference to me between the first and second half. Syracuse made Drexel play desperate.
Mm-hmm.
Drexel seemed comfortable out of the gate when it was 0-0, when it was a 2-point game, 3-point game. Once Syracuse's offense did wake up in that second half, hit a couple of nice threes and tough buckets early on. You got to credit Donnie Freeman for makes like that. That's when you get Drexel to show how they play under the mic, like they were ants under a microscope in the sun on a sidewalk. They had to scramble a little bit. And if Syracuse is a team that can make teams uncomfortable, they're going to win games.
And a lot of that was just in the first half. Drexel had open shots.
Yeah,
I mean, they were
great
allowing
off-ball
the
movement.
Dragons to get open threes, and it was a good scheme.
Yes.
I think big part of this in the first half, Syracuse has the better players.
Right.
Syracuse has the 4 and 5 star recruits, but Drexel had the better game plan out of the gate. They knew if we're able to do that extra pass, get it open on the wing, we can either drive, we can shoot, and even if we aren't making all these shots, we have a chance to stay in it. And you look at the field goal percentages, 50% field goal percentage in the first half for Drexel. In the second half, that dropped to 20%. And that's all because Syracuse just remembered, oh, wait, if we play
we
them
are better
tight,
than you.
and even if they beat us, we have faster guys, we have bigger guys. I mean, we were seeing come from behind, chase down blocks from guys like William Kyle. They just remembered, okay, let's just play our own team game.
Exactly. You cannot play like the win is in the bag. You play hard. You come out of the gate really fast in the second half. Sure, it was a slow first half, but that second half, you can maybe even put it on coaching. If you want to say Adrian Autry had a better second half than first half, call in and see what we think. 315-443-2011 is the number to call. We are talking about Syracuse's 80-50 win over Drexel, the Orange, taking down the Dragons in Philadelphia, a home game for the Orange. But I do want to give some credit to Adrian Autry here. In the past, I think he's been kind of knocked as someone who doesn't make adjustments, who can't coach in-game. And when your team gets a little uncomfortable, even though they were still leading at halftime, it's possible for, Adrian Autry to just try and stay the course. But it's early enough in the season where he was comfortable, really changing things drastically in that second half. And part of it, honestly, in my opinion, and we can ask Hudson about this later, his body language on the bench is so much better than it's ever been. During one of those full court presses, it was towards the end of the game, I think around the 6-minute mark. This ended up being a almost turnover, went out of bounds. Autry challenged it, whatever. There was a trap in the corner where there was a double team, 2 Orange players, hands in the air, trapping a Drexel player by the Syracuse bench. And on the other side, Adrian Autry is on the sideline, putting his hands up. He made it seem like he was getting triple teamed, even though he was on the sideline. Adrian Autry's in these games, and I think his energy is rubbing off on these players as well. When you're the head of the team, if your body language is bad, so will your teams. And we've seen Syracuse teams in the past have bad body language. Benny Williams had to be dismissed from the team 2 years ago. Chris Bell has been moping around the last couple of years. Adrian Autry seems like a force of positivity now, and that's a huge reason why Syracuse, I think, has started with so much energy to start this year.
I mean, it's almost like he was once a starter for the Syracuse team and knows what the players are feeling. So, I mean, he's just found his way to really insert him as a head coach.
Well, we're not the only ones who are singing Coach Autry's praises. Mary from Syracuse is on the line. Mary, you want to talk about Adrian Autry?
Yes. I'm really surprised, honestly. I've been skeptical of him for the first couple of seasons, but I'm really impressed with what I've seen these first 3 games, especially today, just seeing how he got the team to turn around in the second half defensively.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm starting to see what his vision is, because he'd been talking about how he wanted to have a deeper bench and play much more up-tempo and really be a defensive, disruptive team. And I think he couldn't really do that the last few years, especially last year with that roster that he had. But now that he has the pieces, I'm starting to see what he was envisioning, and I like what I'm seeing.
It definitely was a concerted effort in the offseason, Mary, to really get his guys. Is there anyone that's really kind of sticking out to you, especially off the bench, that's really providing that energy that you're looking for?
Definitely Sadiq White, and among the starters, William Kyle is fantastic, of course. I haven't seen this kind of shot blocking in quite a few years. We used to be like one of the top teams in the country in shot blocking, so it's great to see that again. And just impressive because all of our players are like, we don't have like a bunch of 7-footers, but we have a bunch of guys that are in like that 6'6" to 6'9" range, and I feel like it really helps with the team defense.
I mean, Mary, it's crazy that a player like Sadiq White, who was a borderline 5-star recruit, has played national team games, is off the bench. It just shows you how deep this team has been, and it feels really good for Syracuse.
And to that shot blocking point too, it's like you said, a bunch of 6'9" forwards. It's almost reminiscent of like Rakeem Christmas back in those days. If that's a name that rings, if there's a comparison to be made, I guess.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I've been watching Syracuse since the 80s, and it feels like we are finally back to being athletic and just being able to overpower teams like we used to. So I'm very excited, and I just like not just the athleticism, but the fact that they're putting the effort in there too, not just relying on being more talented than their opponent. So I'm very impressed, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the next few games.
Real quick, Mary, before we let you go, I know it's just been Drexel, Delaware State, and Binghamton, but do you think this Syracuse team is back, so to speak?
I really do feel it.
Oh.
I have not felt that in a few years, to be honest with you. But we'll have to see what happens in Vegas. But I feel like Houston is a tall task, but I feel like we might be able to knock off Kansas. And if we play well against Houston, you never know. I don't know. I'm very excited. So we'll just have to take it one game at a time. But I feel like we're back.
We'll see. I definitely think that Syracuse can compete with all these teams. Mary, thank you so much for your call.
Thanks.
If you want to let your ball knowledge shine on the air as well, just like Mary did, please call in. 315-443-2011 is how she got her voice heard and how you can get your voice heard as well. How about that William Kyle, kind of Sadiq White rotation? It seems like in the first couple games, there have been injuries. And to Mary's point, this team just seems deeper. Like you can almost throw in any of those 4 forwards, and you don't really have to worry too much.
And I think Sadiq White is really finding his footing. The first couple of games, he had some impact. He had 10 points in the last game, but it was a quiet 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
And today, especially in that second half, the final 15 minutes or so, you could really feel an impact on the game from him. And he is a freak athlete. And preseason, Adrian Autry talked about this. He's a guy who can dunk the ball. He's a guy who can block the ball both sides of the court. That's why they recruited him. He was one of the best players in the country for a reason.
Right.
And it's really good to see him learning from these other players. And who would have thought that William Kyle, a guy who averaged 3 points per game last year?
I thought so. I believe.
But I mean, he's the one teaching Sadiq, and they're all of a sudden, I mean, a dynamic duo.
I would agree. I mean, listen, if you are only a box score watcher, you see Sadiq White only at 4 points, then you are just doing a disservice to what Sadiq White can do for this team. Listen, I get it. He was a 5-star, and maybe you hope he comes in and he is the star of this team. He only was a 5-star after all because you are the most recognizable player on your team. You're the one making all the plays. He's really transitioned well to coming off the bench, in my opinion, as kind of that sixth man who, as everybody who has talked about him has said, can provide that athleticism on both ends of the floor. It might not necessarily always manifest in points, but you see the tools are there, the work ethic is there, and it seems so far, we're not necessarily in the locker room all the time, but the attitude seems to be there as well. These guys are bought into their roles. It doesn't really seem like there's anybody really that wants more than what they have, and that's honestly what makes championship level teams.
Well, and there's a reason why there's a 6th Man of the Year award in the NBA, because the first 5 guys obviously important, but guy number 6, guy number 7, guy number 8, especially on an SU team like this that has depth at almost every single position, maybe not at the 5, but pretty much every single position, you have someone who can back you up, and in a couple of cases, there's someone who can back up the backup.
Mm-hmm.
And when players have accepted their roles, which, I mean, to me, it seems like they have. I think Adrian Autry's gone at this a really good way, because last year, you remember there'd be these switches, and all of a sudden you'd have all 5 starters out of the game. You'd have 5 backups, a few of which are playing in the wrong position.
And none of them could score, by the way.
No one could score. Nothing was working, and it's like, what are we doing? Today, Autry did some really good switches. I really liked how he got Luke Fennell involved in the second half, so when he was not played a lot this year. But, I mean, he hit a 3-ball. He had some good defensive stands, and they put him in a moment where not are we putting everyone out there who hasn't played. We're putting one guy in, inserting him into this lineup, and getting the offense to gel. Even a guy like Ibrahim Soare, a guy who has gotten a few minutes through the couple of games, he's looked a lot better in the last couple of matchups because they're giving him more time and he's gelled with this team. It's just a much different strategy and it's working well.
I absolutely agree. I don't think there's necessarily one person on the bench that's going to take over down the stretch. And when we saw Tyler Betsy go down in the first half, very scary sight, as Hudson tweeted on our W8ER Sports Talk. By the way, go interact with us there. We are posting content of this show right there right now, so go ahead, get your voice heard. He said, it's not good. It didn't look good. Not a good sign. But, you know, not to say, I'm not going to say that the injury was a good thing or even a neutral thing. I think it is bad when one of your good players gets hurt. But the way I described it at the time was, it's like if you find $10 in your jeans out of the laundry, like, oh my goodness, wow, I found this, and then you lose that $10. It's not going to financially cripple you. Your bank account wasn't built on those $10. It's a nice piece to have. But if Tyler Betsy is out, I don't see anything fundamentally changing about the team, and that's the beauty of being so deep. You know, in past Adrian Autry or late-stage Jim Boeheim teams, you lose one member of that rotation. Jim Boeheim ran like 6 guys, by the way. He had 6 players playing on a nightly basis. If one guy goes down, oh no, you can't really turn to anyone. I'm liking, like you said, Alex, the way they're almost zippering people in, one person in. He's mixed with a bunch of starters. He gets starting reps. He can run with whoever. It builds team chemistry better. It helps people understand their strengths, their roles, and it gets the game going. That's a big difference between this team and last team.
I mean, we're talking about Tyler Betsy. How about J.J. Starling? I mean, he was out in the first game of the season here on W8ER Syracuse. And now he hasn't played the rest of the season so far. It's game number 4. And what's SU's record? Oh, 4-0. They've looked great without him. And obviously when Starling returns, he will be a good piece of this team. And he will be really, really good. And now, apologies, 3-0 on the season. So got 1 step ahead there. But
you think they're going to lose to Monmouth?
No. But the point is, when SU gets to these points of the season where someone goes down with injury, no matter who it is, the fact that there's someone you can interchange and get into the lineup is just so huge when you get down in the postseason and maybe someone has to come out of the game, whether it's injury, foul trouble, and we're comfortable putting in the number 2 guy.
There's going to be a lot of dialogue when J.J. Starling does get healthy because of today's leading scorer, Kyan Anthony, the freshman. Get your voice heard about Kyan Anthony. I know I think that having a Kyan Anthony opinion is like having a right hand. Everybody's got one. It's a matter of do you extend it out? Do you extend it out? Call in and let us know if you think Kyan Anthony should be starting the rest of the way. We're going to talk about it a little later in the show. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. But 315-443-2011 if you want to call in and talk about Kyan Anthony. Because, oh boy, if I'm J.J. Starling, you ever see like those skits on Instagram where it's the starting quarterback gets hurt, he's on the sideline saying, yeah, that's a good shot, yeah, that's a good pass, and everyone on the sideline saying, yeah, that was really good. Why didn't we have this guy starting sooner? I think you might run into that with Kyan Anthony sooner rather than later. I mean, come on. You saw those first 7 minutes, Alex. I know you want to disagree with me here, but when you really look at it, that first bucket of the game, you can't tell me that you weren't thinking, oh my goodness, this guy should play 40 minutes.
I mean, he's really good, and he's really skillful at getting to the basket, and he's been really good on defense, but he's also really young. And when Syracuse plays against Houston, Kansas, playing against an ACC slate with experienced guys and guys who are bigger than him, faster than him, I'm not saying Anthony's not going to get minutes. I mean, he, in these first 3 games, has put a stamp on getting at least 15, 20 minutes a game. But are we forgetting what J.J. Starling did last year when for a
What am I forgetting?
I mean, game in, game out, he was the best player on the court. Not only the best player on the court, there were some games where he was the only guy performing. And I don't think that there's a world where we're going to see Anthony and Starling on the court for much of the game together. But if there's like a 20-20 split, a 25-15 split, and both guys are performing, no one's going to complain about that. But I do not think it's quite time to write off J.J. Starling.
I'm not writing him off.
So much time with this team for 3 years, and now a freshman goes off for 3 games, and you're ready to put him out of the starting lineup?
You say Cayenne is young. You know who else was young? His dad. And you know what Syracuse did that season? They won the national championship.
You're putting him on Carmelo Anthony levels.
I mean, shoot, he's got his name on the back of he's got his jeans, doesn't he? I feel like it's an unfair comparison, but the one you always are going to naturally have to make with Cayenne Anthony is to his father. And the fact that Cayenne's game is so developed at this point, I feel like age is a cop-out excuse for people who are so afraid of change. I'm not going to make any assertive claims yet. That'll be later in the show. Stay tuned for that, where we're going to actually get into this. But I want to start laying the foundation here. J.J. Starling was really good at scoring because he played 34 minutes a night. He's not going to, even if he does start over Cayenne Anthony, there's no way you can justify putting someone who's had a couple of bad injuries in the past couple of seasons out for the same kind of workload he's had the past few nights.
And I'm not saying he has to.
I think his production isn't going to be as good as it was, and even then it was very inefficient getting 18 points a night. Yes, he might have been the only one on a team full of, I'm not going to say it, but a team that were definitely not on his level. Yeah, he naturally became the star player who the offense completely ran through because it couldn't run through anyone else. But when you have a team where you have a Nate George who the offense can run through, when you have a William Kyle who the offense can run through, when you have a Cayenne Anthony who this team can run through Cayenne Anthony, I don't think J.J. Starling's services are as paramount to team success as it was last year. And guess what? The team didn't really succeed that much last year.
Well, but what did J.J. have to do last year? Pretty much everything. There were times that he had to run the point for SU, and he's not really a point guard. He is supposed to be in that 2 role, and I'm not saying he's going to be playing 35 minutes like you said, but the fact that he's going to be able to play his own game, and we saw this and a couple of points last year when it seemed like SU had a couple of good games. But when he's able to just be a true shooting guard, he can dish out some assists, he can find the comfortable shots. Sure, maybe he won't have the same points per game or the same minutes per game, but we may see the best version of J.J. Starling since high school. High school here in Central New York.
High school in Central New York and then in La Lumiere
exactly.
in Indiana.
But even at La Lumiere, that's a stacked program.
And I see where you're coming from. I definitely do. I think that when you give him fewer minutes, he's going to take less stupid shots. When the offense doesn't have to live and die from his usage, I think he will take smarter shots. The shooting percentages will go up. He'll be more efficient. And I think that's the luxury you run when you have a team like this where there's plenty of options. But I don't know if he's as instrumental or crucial to the starting lineup as we thought in the beginning of the year.
I just don't see a world where Syracuse makes a big run against big teams without J.J. Starling. Because you look at the guys who have really made impact on this team, and I guess you can toss out Donnie Freeman because he was with this team last year, but didn't have a lot of time. Exactly. I mean, he was a bench piece not bench piece, but he was on the bench because he was injured. I mean, guys like Nate George, a transfer into this team. Cayenne Anthony, a transfer into this team.
I will tell you what, I am excited to see how J.J. Starling runs with this year's team. I'm very excited. Before he got hurt in the Binghamton game, he threw a lob to William Kyle. And I think we can see a lot more of that. I'd love to see a more pass-first J.J., and I think he can be unlocked in a team where it actually has complementary players, not ball hogs like Judah Minson, Quaddy, or Copeland. Love the guys, but they were ball hogs. Or in a team where, you can't necessarily rely on someone to naturally get you a bucket. I'm curious to see what J.J. Starling can do with such a fluid and dynamic team. But I don't think he's as important as we once thought. And I'm happy he came back. I'm happy he's still a part of this team. I'm very excited for him to come back for these big games. I think he'll play a key part in competing against teams like Houston in Vegas and teams like Kansas in Vegas and St. John's. But I don't think last year when J.J. Starling went down, it was hell on earth. Everybody running around like Choppa Moore could not fill in the same way that Cayenne Anthony has. Let's be real. And there was never a question. Once J.J. is back, it's his team. This year, I'm just saying it's not as clean cut. that it's JJ's team when he comes back.
I really, really hope that his first game back is against Monmouth on Tuesday.
That would be
not
nice.
Houston.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what this team will do against Houston, but the Cougars are number 1 in the nation. And if you take JJ Starling coming off an injury and put him into this new role, and the first game back is against this elite Houston defense, and then he does bad, I think it'll kind of skew the vision.
Maybe.
I think if his first game back is against Monmouth and you're able to kind of work him into the role, get a good 10, 15 points out of him and show what role he can have, that would be huge. And, I mean, obviously we'll see what the doctors say, and he was questionable and then a last minute ruled out for today's game. But whichever game he comes back for, I think makes a huge impact on his role for the foreseeable future.
Definitely. I'm curious to see what his new role is. I wonder what his role even would have been today. This is a Syracuse team that, I think if J.J. Starling did play today, Syracuse would not have as slow of a start as it did. Just being a senior, knowing the team, having trust with the coaches. A ton of players have already said they've
And that's
leaned...
why you need him as a starter.
As a starter. A ton of people have said they've leaned on Donnie and JJ as they've come in. It's a team full of newcomers, but they're playing like they've played together for 8 years at least. I think JJ Starling definitely helps with continuity, and I think that will help you to get off to faster starts. In the half-court offense, I do think J.J. Starling is probably your best weapon because Syracuse isn't always going to push it in transition. We have to be real about that. They're going to try as hard as they can, and when they do, I think there are other options better. But if J.J. Starling was in, I think they score more than 37 points in the first half, and I don't think that Drexel keeps it as close. I think J.J. Starling just has that kind of experience and has enough of a shot and an offensive game and is a little better at the free throw line to really kind of put the foot on the neck of Drexel early on.
There's also just that calmness of having a senior captain on the floor that would allow Syracuse to not play the game at your opponent's pace for the first 20 minutes and kind of open up the game because, I mean, skill is one thing, and skill is very important. But in college basketball, especially in today's world where there's so many players who are with a team for the first time this season, it's nice to have someone on the court who really knows your program.
Well, we're kind of tiptoeing around this a little bit, but Syracuse did win 80-50 over Drexel, but it wasn't as pretty as that final score suggests. We're talking around it a little bit. Alex and I are going to break down a little bit more as to why Syracuse didn't quite look as dominant in that first half. That'll come after a short break. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Double Overtime on WAER.
Hannah Cohen and her band join us on this week's Mountain Stage. We'll also hear Carolina Funk from Boulevards, Alt Pop's Amy Milan, plus the latest from Lara Lynn and Oyo.
Hi, this is Hannah Cohen. Join us this week in live performance on Mountain Stage.
Sunday from noon to 2 on 88.3 FM WAER.
Imagine, if you will, you know exactly what you have to do to make all your dreams come true. Ocean villas, private jets, all of it. It's right there. You just got to do one little thing. But the clock is ticking. On the next Snap Judgment, the Golden Lure. Do not miss it.
Sunday morning at 10 on 88.3 FM WAER.
President Trump's war on higher ed has the headlines. Community colleges see an upside.
Huge opportunities for students in our area. If you've got technician connected to your job title, you're going to do well right now in this economy.
The fact that we do offer trades, this might be a moment in time where we get better recognition.
That and all the news, Sunday on Weekend Edition from NPR News.
Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WAER.
Tingler grabs the miss, and here comes Drexel. Pass up ahead. Vanderhorst is wide open, and a breakaway hammer with two. A miscommunication by Syracuse getting back. They did not pick up Kavan Vanderhorst, and he made him pay.
Welcome back into the Double Overtime here on WAER alongside Tish Sokolsky. I'm Alex Burstein. Syracuse men's basketball, an 80-50 win over Drexel. A nice solid victory for the Orange. But we're going to take a little rewind to about 2 hours ago. Syracuse in the locker room, and looking at the scoreboard, and the Orange only up 37-32 over this Drexel squad. And it's because some offensive errors that did not really work out in the first 20 minutes of play. If you have any thoughts on Syracuse's offense, the good and the bad, you can call in at 315-443-2011. Because we mentioned it early on, this was really a tale of two halves for Syracuse. And in the first half, that offense looked a little iffy.
Right. The main takeaway I got, Drexel being a bottom-tier, slow team in the country, very much built on half-court sets, very much built on limiting transition opportunities. Drexel, it was honestly a Drexel slow and steady wins the race kind of game plan coming out. Flat out, I think Drexel was more prepared coming into the game. I think that they understood the assignment at hand. We are playing Syracuse. We're going to come out. We're going to play our game. We're not going to let them run. And because of that, Syracuse struggled. It's pretty discouraging to see Syracuse not able to generate quick, easy looks at the basket in the half-court offense consistently. I wish there were more plays ran, and this is just kind of an Autry/Boeheim signature, is just let the kids go out there and figure it out almost. And you get that kind of liberty when you bring in a point guard like Nate George who can make things happen on the fly, but just not a lot of half-court creativity. And I think that really slowed Syracuse down.
And it led to a lot of forced shots. I mean, threes that just looked a little off the mark. Donnie Freeman in the paint just throwing stuff off after the rim, which I knew you really did not like, Dish.
Oh, my God. We were watching this game. This is something that's always bothered me about Donnie Freeman's game. He is a big and getting even bigger figure. He added a lot of weight this offseason. He is this tall figure, definitely bigger than his 6'9" height on Cuse.com suggests. Why in the world is he backing down on the low block and spinning away for those fadeaway twos? My friend, you are not Dirk Nowitzki. I love you, Donnie Freeman. I think he has so many good aspects of his game. I hate that shot so much. I don't care how much you practice the spin away, fade away too. And you know, a lot of people can't guard it, but it's such a low percentage shot when you could easily just turn over the left shoulder and have an easy finish at the basket. That's one thing Eddie Lampkin brought to the team last year, just to keep bringing in the comparisons to last year's team. He could finish with the baby hook underneath the basket. He didn't necessarily have to get too cute. He used his footwork. I'd love to see Donnie Freeman's footwork get a little bit better where he can kind of use the pivot foot, work around defenders, and get open looks at the cup rather than trying to fade away and hope to God that that's going in. I like Donnie Freeman as a finisher more than I like him as a shooter.
Well, and that's the thing. While some of those shots were a little off, he's taking those shots from less than 5 feet from the basket, and he's bringing the defense all the way into the paint. And then you see 5 plays later, Donnie Freeman splashing a three from the top of the key. He had 2 threes in the first half, and I think while there are some things to be worked on in the paint and how you finish with him, the way he opens up this offense, it's the reason Syracuse even had the lead in the first half. He had a couple of big shots, and when you have a player who can both play down low and is also able to take a shot from far away and splash it, the defense has no idea where to go. Let's say Donnie Freeman's at the top of the key. You have to guard him all the way out there. You have to take one of your bigger defenders, bring him out to the top of the key, and that leaves a wide, gaping hole for someone like William Kyle to be open, or a cutting guard. And because Donnie Freeman has those capabilities, it's not perfect, but it's a huge part of this offense.
He's got a lot of gravity to him. You're right. He's going to draw a couple defenders once he threatens down low. Mm-hmm. His game, though, reminds me a lot of Aaron Gordon's, the Nuggets power forward. He kind of, in theory, could play on the perimeter, but you much would rather have him finish at the basket. And you want to generate looks where he can get downhill and finish lobs like William Kyle does. I think what William Kyles does is so impressive. It's great. I think Donnie Freeman could also do it with his athletic profile, his speed, his length, his coordination. I don't think he should be settling for bad shots like that. And I know like a lot of it is just so he can get defenders on him. He can be a decoy almost and kick it out to his teammates, which I also appreciate. I think we can use not we as in Syracuse, could use Donnie Freeman in a way that I think more capitalizes on his natural abilities.
And I think with Donnie Freeman, he's just still figuring out where he best plays on the court. And last year was supposed to be that year.
Yes.
He was a freshman. There was talks he could be drafted.
This is like an extension of his freshman year,
Alex.
Alex.
He's played, maybe 15 games as a college basketball player? Maybe a couple
Around
more than
20,
that.
yeah.
But he played the first half or a little less of last season, and now he's 3 games into this season. He's not a seasoned vet, and I think a lot of people are treating him like that. I mean, you heard Adrian Autry in the preseason pressers. Who are our guys? J.J. Starling and Donnie Freeman. These are the guys who are expected to kind of lead this team, and I think Donnie Freeman, from a raw talent perspective, has all of those keys. And from a coaching perspective, they've put him in a good position to succeed, but he's going to have some days where it doesn't really make sense what he's doing, but part of that is just figuring out where he fits in this offense, and when it really clicks, when you really know where Donnie Freeman has to be on the court for all 30 or 35 minutes that he's on the court, you're in for a really good
He's going to be a very, very good player if that part of that, if honestly, really the pieces around him come together and put him in those situations. He did lead the team with 2 3-pointers made. He has the ability to shoot, and you can tell he's been working on it too. I think the shot selection, though, is still something that needs to be a question a little bit, because one of those threes, he had a guy in his face. It wasn't necessarily they passed. It was a give and go on the right wing early second half. It was, I think, a 2-man game with him and Nate George. George cuts to, first it's a handoff, Freeman to George, who goes to the corner, back to Freeman, and he hits a contested 3. Wow. You don't want him to take those shots all the time. Great. I'm happy you made it.
Every basketball player wants to be
no,
able to hit the
yes,
three in
kind
your
of 3.
face.
Right. And I mean, that's what Kai and Anthony did in the first half, too. You can't rely on that. And Syracuse, in the half-court offense, which they had to employ a lot more, the slower pace in the first half, a lot of those possessions were giving you kind of flashbacks to how possessions would end in the past couple of years, where the shot clock would bleed down and there was no better shot than to take a 40-foot contested 3. Today they were making them, but you cannot bank on that. And they really couldn't in the first half. A big reason why they only led by 5 in that first half. I mean, we are splitting hairs here, of course, but that's just something that ACC teams are going to see on film. Big-time schools are going to see on film. They're going to try and exploit that. And it's I think it's a comfortable dialogue to talk about it now.
Well, Jish, you did say one thing a little bit troubling, and that's that he led the team with 2 3-pointers.
Hey,
Syracuse, again today, kind of struggling from deep, better than the first 2 games, but a 7 for 19 performance against this Drexel team that is not great at defending the 3. I'm not sure where this 3-point offense goes for SU, and if you have any thoughts about how Syracuse can really improve from deep, you can call in 315-443-2011 to get your thoughts heard. But I don't know. Autry doesn't want this to be a team reliant on the 3 ball, and that's really respectful. That's a coaching standpoint where you want to play fast, you want to play transition offense. But to be a team that succeeds in 2025, you have to have players who can consistently hit the 3. And through these first couple matchups, there's not one player that I look at and am confident when they take a 3 ball.
It's one thing to not make it your identity, Alex, but it's another thing to just not really have the ability to do it, to scheme it up. Drexel certainly did. The off-ball movement in that first half, pristine. The off-ball screens, they were honestly out-physicaling Syracuse by getting guys open in the corner. Syracuse doesn't have plays like that. And I get that you don't want to have those plays in your playbook, but you should have something to fall back on when you need that big shot. I think Syracuse should be running those kinds of plays when they understand the pace of the game. Okay, we're running more half-court sets. Let's scheme guys open. I'm sick and tired of seeing dudes just standing around in the 3. Tyler Betsy and Nate Kings, they kind of play the same role, the 3 guard, the 3. They just kind of stand in the corner, and I think that's kind of a gross misusage of them. They don't have plays where they're running down the baseline and getting open on the other corner thanks to a screen down low from William Kyler, Donnie Freeman, because those guys are playing at the top, setting on-ball screens to the left and to the right, playing the pick-and-roll offense, which is good, but I think there should be some variation. Get your guys open in the corner. A big reason why I guess Nate Kings hasn't really been as advertised. I mean, he went 1 for 5 from 3 today, his one being kind of an in-rhythm contested 3 at the top of the key. My take is that they're good three-point shooters, but because it's been so ingrained, our identity is defense and playing fast, that shooting has kind of fallen to the wayside.
But why did you get Kings?
Right.
For him to shoot the 3.
Did you? Yeah.
He
to
shot
be like
at
the
a 45% clip from deep last year. To start off the season, he's 2 for 12. I don't care what the coaches are saying about your strategy, that we shouldn't be shooting as many threes, which Syracuse isn't doing it. Under 23-point attempts against a Drexel team, that's a lot lower than you'd expect than a lot of these big-time programs are doing. But for Kings, someone who has been his entire college career a three-point shooter and someone who can make these deep shots, not only the fact that he's only made 2 shots, but he's only attempted 12. What's the saying? You would rather shoot 30 shots and miss them all
Dion
than
Waiters?
8 because I stopped shooting at 8, and that shows that you gave up.
I'd rather go 0 for 30 than 0 for 12 because
yeah.
that means you lost confidence.
And maybe he's lost confidence?
I don't think so. I don't want to take it that far yet. Chris Bell last year, I think, was a guy who took a lot and lost confidence. And unfortunately, I honestly think they're pegging him into that role as well. Chris Bell eventually found his shot, though, and that needs to be stated. Both 2 years ago and last year, Chris Bell was pretty bad to start from three-point range. It took him a little bit to really find his feel and make himself open. I just wish that they would have learned from that to not necessarily keep your shooters down and get them open. I'd rather have a play be drawn up for Nate Kings every once in 4 possessions rather than none at all, and it never feels like a play is designed for Nate Kings, and that's just a misuse of his talent, in my opinion.
And that's when you get to ACC play and Donnie Freeman's locked down and Anthony's locked down and Starling's locked down by some of the top defenders in the country. Who are you going to have to turn to get points? Guys like George, guys like Kings who are good shooters but maybe not the focal point of the offense. If they're taught right now that I'm a role player and I'm going to be a part of some plays, but I'm not going to really be the focal point of any part of this offense, then you can't teach that midway through the season. And Chris Bell, a great example. I mean, in the locker room after some of those games last year, he didn't want to talk, and it seemed like he was just completely out of it. And once a player's out of it, sure, he had some redemption games in the end of the season, but even if you go back to SMU, he struggled in the ACC tournament, and just the shooting does not seem to be working right now from deep. We have Ken from Cicero on the line who wants to talk about rebounding, another part of this offense that was up and down for Syracuse today. Ken, what did you see from the Orange?
Hey, how you doing, man? I'm calling about the rebounding and defense. It's a hustle statistic. Like, I think that the defensive rebounding, we're not playing a zone anymore, so we should be able to rebound, but a lot of the guys aren't rebounding, and we're not closing out on the three-point shooting, and it makes me think that it's a reflection of the head coach. It makes me think that, like, if the head coach, Autry, he's dressing like a thug, he needs to wear a suit, and we need discipline on this team. We need discipline.
All right.
Thank you, Ken, for your thoughts there on the rebounding. I mean, it was an interesting battle there for Syracuse. They really struggled in the first half with getting rebounds, but in the second half, kind of came alive, kind of got things to go well. And the players are still finding their roles. I think you have a lot of eligible basketball players who can rebound. William Kyle's a guy who should be getting rebounds for Syracuse.
Well,
and once he finds his role, I mean, he could be down for double-digit rebounds a game.
I think it's very short-sighted to just kind of say, oh, the Syracuse team still can't rebound. It's still an issue that they've struggled with, because I think they're not rebounding for different reasons than they're not boxing out. Before, it was fundamental issues. It was, like Ken was saying, they played the zone. You know, it's just not good for rebounding. Your head is turned. You're not necessarily looking at the basket. To me, it's the fact that William Kyle is so prone to help defense when there's somebody cutting down, and I honestly would prefer it. And I prefer a team to get an offensive rebound because you made sure that the other team missed the shot. I'd rather, of course, Syracuse gets the rebound and that finishes the possession. That does finish a defensive possession. But I'd rather them give up a ton of offensive rebounds but not give up a lot of shots because of the help that's coming in from the backside.
But Drexel today multiple times had third and fourth chances.
That's unacceptable.
There's a way to defend and still, what did coaches always say in youth basketball? When the ball's in the air, crash towards the basket and get the basketball. You can have help defense and still find a way to not give up 2 offensive rebounds in the possession.
There were just too many times today, though, when I saw the big man for Drexel down low, William Kyle guarding him. A guard slips through on a pick and roll. Kyle comes over, and this might be a downside of Kyle's game. It's the biggest upside of his game, but it also might be a downside. He jumps so high in the air to contest shots. Him and his backup, Ibrahim Soare, do the same exact thing. They jump so high in the air to contest shots.
And Sadiq White.
It's going to be so much to ask of them to be contesting these shots, but then also to turn around and grab the rebound. I think there should be other players who do get beat defensively, who are crashing the boards, like you said. But right now, I do think that schematically, Syracuse is more focused on help defense and making sure that there are no easy baskets, that they are sometimes giving up these second chance points. And yes, you should not be giving up third and fourth chances, but shoot, the offense gets tired too. Like, yeah, they'll get energized by it, but it's not like they're more likely to make shots just because they keep pulling down the rebound. If you are consistent and relentless and tough in contesting these shots, if you're detailed and accountable too, I mean, if you're doing all these things, at the end of the day, they're not making these shots, right? And you can't necessarily bank on that, but if you are always and relentlessly helping out your defenders who are getting beat, I will sacrifice being dominant on the glass.
You look at a player like Donnie Freeman, who had 3 rebounds and then 28 minutes. That's 1 rebound every 10 minutes. We have Mike from Manlius on the line who wants to talk about this Syracuse win. Mike, what do you have for us?
Hey, guys. Just wanted to stick up for Coach Autry. The guy knows what he's doing. He's a breath of fresh air. He's a light to us. So I just wanted to hear you guys' opinion as to what allowed Syracuse to pull away in the second half, because I had to go to church for the second half. So just tell me your opinion about what you think led SU to be able to win so convincingly.
I mean, Mike, to me, it was just a complete Syracuse remembering that this was their game, and there was a complete shift in how Syracuse played this game. In the first half, it was a lot of half-court offense, not a lot of transition points for SU, and then you got into that second half. The first couple of minutes were kind of the same, but after that, Syracuse really, really pushed the pace, got some quick baskets, and after that, it was smooth sailing. It felt like at one point, Syracuse was up by 10. 2 minutes later, up by like 20. Like, the offense just completely changed its way.
Yeah, Mike, we really appreciate your call. Thank you so much for calling in. And I agree with you. I do think Adrian Autry was a big reason why Syracuse pulled away in the second half. We mentioned it a lot earlier in the show, but Syracuse kind of got into the head of Drexel, imposed their will by running these full court presses, by making Drexel speed up to the level that Syracuse is comfortable playing at. And once they got to that pace, by running the full court press, by forcing them to take bad shots, bleeding out shot clocks, by staying in front of them, playing airtight perimeter defense, not letting them get as much off-ball movement, playing physical through screens, that made Drexel panic, put up bad shots, and that's when Syracuse really started to pull away because they just remain the more composed team at the end of the day, and it all comes back to coaching regardless of what he was wearing on the sideline.
Adrian Autry and Syracuse take an 80-50 win over Drexel to stay undefeated on the season 3-0. After a quick break, our reporter Hudson Ridley, who was in Philly to watch this game, joins us after a quick break here on the Double Overtime.
You've probably heard by now, federal funding for public media has been eliminated, which means decades of support for public radio and television from both political parties is ending. To be clear, NPR and this station aren't going anywhere, but we do need your support. We hope you'll give today to keep rigorous, independent, and irreplaceable news coverage available to everyone free of charge. Here's how to donate, and thank you.
Visit WAER.org to get started today. The Ostrom Avenue Podcast, breaking down Syracuse athletics.
The students rush the field. The Orange are bowl eligible and 6-0 for just the third time in the last 87 years.
And interviewing the industry's experts.
We are now joined by a very special guest. It's Emily Leiker of Syracuse.com.
Check out video interviews on YouTube at Ostrom Avenue Podcast and weekly episodes on WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
In 2021, the company now known as Meta suspended the social media account of outgoing President Trump.
So I was very involved. In fact, I was instrumental and key in making that decision on behalf of, as it was then, Facebook.
What does Nick Clegg think now that Trump is back and Meta has changed its policies? On the next Morning Edition from NPR News.
Weekdays from 5 to 9 on 88.3 WAER.
Drexel with possession. Beard turns it over. Zephyr with a steal. One-on-one with Vanderhorst. Down the lane. Jump stop. Lefty layup. It's good. In twirling fashion, Bryce Zephyr gets it to fall off glass.
After a 30-point victory over Drexel, Syracuse takes it 80-50. We are breaking this thing down all the way up until 7:30. You've heard from Alex Burstein and myself, Jish Sokolsky, but joining us now is our reporter who is down in the Xfinity Center, Hudson Ridley. If you want to talk to Hudson, ask what the vibes were like down there, please call into our show, 315-443-2011, or you can interact with us on X. We continue to post there at WAER Sports Talk. Hudson, how does it feel to be in the greatest football city in the world right now?
Ooh, I don't know about that.
It's
but
the best football city in the world.
All
Football
right,
city.
maybe right now.
It's a basketball
What I will
game
say is, though, this basketball arena, this Xfinity Mobile Center, pretty good. The lighting on the court is good, and the rest of it's dimmed. I always like that. This is a nice place. It's a good environment. It's a court that maybe was not the best prepared for today. There's still air bubbles underneath the decals as I sit here looking at this court, but overall a good arena.
Well, were those decal air bubbles there during the game? Did that impact anything? I know we saw Tyler Betsy kind of go down earlier. There was a Drexel player that went down as well in the game. Do you think any of that had to do with the court conditions?
I don't think the decal air bubbles or anything really messed with it. It was more just annoying. Now, there was a point where the ball had to be wiped extra from sweat, and there was a point, obviously the courts, they had to stop to wipe that. I don't think it was anything with the court. I just think it doesn't look great, but it's put together in a way that didn't affect the game at all.
Well, regardless of the venue, Syracuse put on an absolute clinic, a domination. Lester from Liverpool is on the line. He wants to talk about how Syracuse dominated Lester. What you got?
Hey, guys. First time, long time. Right before I begin, I just want to say your last caller that talked about Coach Autry, I think that's totally out of line.
I agree.
He's doing a fantastic job. I mean, it's finally such a breath of fresh air to see this team, win 3 games now, all 3 by 30-plus points. And, yeah, maybe the competition isn't as stiff as it was the last few years, but, we've been playing close games, these season openers, winning by 3 or 4 points. So it's finally nice to see a team gelling and playing well. That being said, I mean, there's nothing more electric than Jim Boeheim ripping off his sport coat against Duke. So, maybe time ACC play rolls around, maybe Coach Autry does break out the soup. But I want to say that caller, totally out of line. Get him out of here.
And it seems like Autry has really taken on some more energy this season. And Hudson, you were watching him on the sideline, but he's really kind of changed his mojo as a coach in this third season.
Fully has, and I agree with the point, too, about, going at that caller. That completely out of line. Completely agree. I think Autry has done a great job so far this year in terms of the energy that he's brought to the team. The bench today.
I will say, I think it's tournament or bust this year, and if they don't make it, I'd fire Autry.
Okay, wow. That's fair. I also agree with that.
Well, hang on, Lester. What if they made a deep ACC tournament run and they were just snubbed on Selection Sunday? Would that be still enough to fire Autry at this point?
No, because a snub is subjective.
Sure.
You know, you're in the tournament or you're not, and if you're on the bubble, then that's not good enough. We have to be in it to win it.
So in it confidently. That's what's going to save Adrian Autry's job.
I mean, if we're in it as a 10 seed, fine. I don't care what seed we are, but we need to be in the tournament. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this.
And if you need to make a deep ACC tournament run, that means it was a disaster of a regular season.
That is true.
So
that
you
is
have
true.
To play
And look, guys, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but I've already started thinking of some potential replacements if Coach Autry has to go.
Wow.
Like who?
This has been a complete reversal
you know,
here.
all these Syracuse fans, they always want somebody associated with the school like Jerry McNamara, and I just think it's time we move on from that way of thinking with the current state of the NCAA and NIL. We need to go fresh perspective, outside hire, maybe somebody like Stephen A. Smith.
All right, and there we go.
Whoa. I would not trust Stephen A. Smith to run this basketball team. Adrian Autry's doing a great job through the first 3 games. Lester, thank you so much for your call. This was very entertaining. Thank you so much. If you want to be like Lester, you want to talk to Alex Hudson and myself, please call in at 315-443-2011. If you have a coaching pick, if Adrian Autry fails, that would be even more ludicrous than Stephen A. Smith.
Crazy
we could
time.
all use a good
laugh.
laugh.
Would be crazier than that.
Jish, I do want to say this because we talked about this earlier, and I want to circle back to the energy here.
Sure.
That energy was some of the best that I've seen. I would argue of the Adrian Autry era, certainly. Maybe not the first half, but the second half. And after the game, he mentioned that he calls the bench the juicer station, and that's kind of the catalyst, which it was funny, but it truly was the catalyst for this team in terms of taking off in the second half. They started to play with more energy. The full court press picked up in intensity. They used their length. It flipped the entire tide of the game. They started attacking the basket better. Everything changed when they started playing with that energy. And you know who he went on to credit as their bench captain for getting them into it?
Tell me, Hudson.
Noah Lobdell.
Oh,
let's go.
Incredible.
Oh,
Noah Lobdell as the bench captain. And to be fair, when you see the bench really get into it like that and push this team, I mean, that is someone that you do have to credit. Lobdell played a few minutes at the end of the game.
He got a steal.
He got a steal. He turned the ball over, but it did not count. And I think that is something that this team maybe has not had in the past couple of years of Autry, is that bench energy to say, okay, we can take this game, we can turn it around, and we can flip it instantly and go on these long runs. We talk about kills, which are 3 stops in a row. We talk about 10-point runs, which is how you win the game. They call those kill shots, right? Those things overall will lead to wins. That's what it's been in the tournament era. And right now, Syracuse is showing it.
I love that. I love that Syracuse has kind of both ends of it. You have these like advanced statistics, your kills, your defensive efficiency, but then you're also just talking about how you have a bench captain who's taking the way. And I think Syracuse has found a really good kind of connecting point between those two ideas, where it's players having fun playing basketball and doing it the right way.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, the power of friendship.
It's a bunch of nerds on treadmills. They're all about the analytics, but they're gonna execute these analytics as fast as possible. And to me, it starts with Adrian Autry, Hudson, because I was watching, at least on TV, he was all up and down the sideline. He was putting triple teams on guys who were stuck in a corner in front of the bench. He was putting his hands up and really kind of sparking the team. I thought his body language in particular was the best that we've seen since he's been a coach.
I fully agree, and I mean, it makes it a lot easier on him now that he has a roster that can do these things. Autry has wanted to play like this for a while, and the style doesn't come together because you have Eddie Lampkin dragging 300 pounds up and down the court each time, and that's just not going to happen. But now you have athletes, you have length, you have size, and you have intensity, right? And Autry can put that together, and he showed that today. That energy is something he feeds off of clearly, and his players feed off of that energy. It's a positive cycle, and so I think roster construction has gone a long way to having that, where maybe Syracuse can play intense like this against a lot of teams. Again, it's just Drexel, and again, it was Delaware State and Binghamton. I know that, but these are positive signs.
And these are the things that translate, too. It doesn't matter who your opponent is. If you're playing fast and physical and intense, yeah, if you're bringing that intensity against a team you're supposed to kind of, maybe sleep on a little bit, that goes to show that, yeah, you're not going to get upset by these lower teams. But I think it also can bring this kind of underdog, juiced up mentality when you do play some of these heavier hitters that are coming up on the schedule.
And one of the big parts of that was this full court defense that we really saw out of Syracuse about 5 minutes into the second half, the rest of the way. Hudson, did that feel like a turning point for SU when that was kind of brought into the game?
Totally. I mean, the second half in general was a total turning point. You start off on, I believe it was a 26-6 run to begin the second half that went, I think, 5 minutes left in the game. Drexel started to kind of get back into that, but they were sleepwalking through much of the first half of the second half, if that makes any sense. But I do think that turning point was switching to the full court press. And it was also finishing opportunities on the other end, right, and taking it to the rim. Early on, one of the bigger struggles for Syracuse was they didn't take it to the rim much, and they were missing kind of tough, long twos. They were giving up a little size inside to Martin de la Portier today, 7-footer from France. They gave up a little bit of that size, but once they started taking it at the rim, things improved a lot, and you can credit that to William Kyle especially on both sides, offensive and defensive end.
Do you think there is a 3-point shooting identity for this team in the future, or is this kind of going to be a layup team?
I mean, I think this is a team that plays in transition. I don't know if they're a 3-point shooting team. I don't know if they're a layup team, like you described in both ways there. I think they're a team that plays in transition. They feed and thrive off the energy of making the other team make mistakes and capitalizing on the other end, whether that's taking it to the rim like William Kyle did sometimes in transition. Kyan Anthony was good at that today as well, especially early on in the game when no one would attack the rim. But it can also be like Nate George, who slowed it down sometimes, taking it up the court on the fast break, and then doing it himself by hitting a three a few feet behind the line. Those things help.
I think the fact that we're having this debate, what is the Syracuse identity, from the sense that it could be a lot of different things versus last year when it was, what is the Syracuse identity? We have no idea because they haven't shown anything. That just goes to show that this is a performance and a team you have to take seriously. But one thing Alex and I were a little confused on, and I'm sure you have a little bit more insight on this because, you got to talk to him after the game. Nate Kings, he was billed as this sharpshooter coming in. We thought he was going to kind of come in and slot in as someone who just makes a ton of threes. But as we talked about, this isn't a team that's going to make plays to get 3-point shooters open. The question is, I guess, and I think we all kind of are wondering this rhetorically, how much longer can Nate Kings just kind of be your gritty, get rebounds and play defense guy before you really need something from him offensively?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how long. How long? I'll tell you. You have one game until you need him against Houston.
That's true.
Which is just true if you want me to put a time frame on it. But I will also say that, Kings does a lot of other things very well besides the shooting, and it's not necessarily that they haven't been getting him looks. That's not true. He's gotten looks. He just has not hit them. And I talked to him after the game about shooting slumps like that, and he said, yeah, things like that just can't happen. You can't allow your shot to keep on spiraling, but it's more of a time thing, he thinks, instead of, shocking yourself to get yourself right. He just thinks it's time. And, Syracuse has that time when you look at the grand scheme of things, right? Obviously, Houston is tough. Kansas is tough. Whoever they play third, that's going to be hard. Tennessee will not be easy. That is a really tough stretch of 4 games in a row. But then you go back to the cupcakes and beating them up. If Nate Kings is not around by ACC play to start hitting these threes, then we're going to have a problem. But you have to give him a long leash.
Well,
you just do.
The problem with that is Syracuse has to compete in those games to be seen as a competitor going into ACC play.
And I think they will. I don't necessarily think not having Nate Kings doesn't make you a competitor in those games. Yeah, they're beating up tomato cans, but they've blown out 3 teams in a row right now. It's true. They've blown out 3 teams in a row, though, and they've held them all to 50 points or less. It's really been the defensive identity so far that's been great. Will that hold up against Houston? I would highly doubt it. But can you get off to a good 4-0 start against Monmouth? Sure, and maybe that could be a tone setter because it's really, you're relying on the defensive end, not necessarily Nate Kings to be your guy to go out there and knock down threes.
If Syracuse loses to Monmouth, there are plenty of issues that I guess we just cannot diagnose. We've got Lenny on the line. Lenny, you're on the air. What you got?
Hey, how are you guys?
Fantastic. How are you, Lenny?
Hi, I just want to address the last caller that brought up Stephen A. Smith. Just utterly ridiculous take about, not only Red Autry, but a potential future replacement. I think if anybody's going to take over the program post-Red, it could be Carmelo Anthony.
Wow.
Stay mellow. Stay mellow. We can name the Carmelo Anthony Center. We can put the 7 in there. Stay mellow.
You can name it the Carmelo Anthony Dome at that point for all he's done for the program. I don't hate it, but what do you think about his point that Syracuse should kind of look outward and not look within the program for stars of the past to take over?
I don't think we've had a star of the past. Red Autry, not a star of the past, taking over. Carmelo Anthony is Syracuse, if you think about it. He is Syracuse basketball. I mean, we have a state-of-the-art practice facility named after him. We have his son on the team. I just don't think you can really say Syracuse basketball today, and it's not synonymous with Carmelo Anthony. I just think he's a generational basketball mind that can lead our program into the future with a perspective of the past.
Hudson, Carmelo was at the game today. Is he looking like a dad? Is he screaming at the players? What's kind of his demeanor during these games?
We would have fans showing up there 2 hours before every game if Coach Carmelo was there.
That's true. Today, Carmelo, he was courtside. He was sitting next to VJ Edgecombe, one of the Sixers rookies who just keeps popping up at these random college games.
He was there 2 hours early today, and he wasn't even coaching.
Exactly.
He's bought into not only his son, but the program. He's just inducted into the Hall of Fame. I just think Syracuse stays relevant if they stay mellow.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Well, do you think, though, that yes, he's probably going to get more butts in seats, but what kind of X's and O's acumen does he? I mean, he just signed to be an ACC network analyst. I don't think he's giving up that job anytime soon. But hypothetically, if he did, do you think his lack of coaching experience would hurt the team at all?
Listen, I think if he was given a choice between analyst and Syracuse head basketball coach, it's a no-brainer. He loves this place. He loves the program. He is Syracuse basketball, bottom line.
All right. Lenny has made his voice heard. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you for listening to WAER. If you want to be like Lenny, we still got half an hour to get your voice heard. We're up until 7:30. Call in 315-443-2011 or interact with us on social media at WAER Sports Talk. Yeah, Melo would be a fun coach. I think Adrian Autry is still making this team super fun.
Well, I'm still curious, Hudson. What is Carmelo doing during these games?
So he's very even keeled. He did make fun of Kyan when the Orange got a big stop on the defensive end, went back the other way, and Kyan double dribbled, and it was a bad double dribble. And Kyan was laughing about it. He knew. Carmelo was making fun of him on the sideline, and it wasn't until later in the game when Kyan Anthony got fouled pretty hard, going to the rack. Carmelo didn't stand up. But on the near side of the court, Lala stood up, Kyan Anthony's mom, and she made her voice heard. And for the rest of the game, you knew exactly where Lala Anthony was. It's a power couple of parents that he has, and the expectations are super high and weighted on him. I think he's handled it so well so far. And I know it's just 3 games, but he has done such a good job at carrying himself through these first 3 games.
And it definitely is a topic maybe some people think isn't important at all, but I think the fact that you have parents that support you when they know that they're a big reason why you're carrying this much pressure, the fact that they're there for you and support you and aren't making it about themselves, that's going to be crucial to his success. But like you said, Hudson, it really seems like Kyan has such a developed game. Mm-hmm. He can score almost at that first bucket of the game was so pretty, but he's also playing relentless defense. And I think that's probably what I'm most impressed with about Kyan so far. It's so easy to be the heir to a millionaire and have this kind of attitude about you like you're better than, playing college basketball, but he is all in from what I've seen on the floor.
He has been. He's done a really great job on the defensive end. It's something that Coach Autry and assistant coach Alan Griffin have both talked about, the fact that his game is very developed offensively, but what are they going to get from him as a defensive product? But he's shown it because he has length at the guard spot. Now, he had a great matchup today, considering that the guy he was guarding, Eli Beard, is listed at 5'11". Eli Beard was in the postgame press conference. If he's 5'11", I'm 7 feet tall.
Hey.
But I will say his wingspan was very impressive today in guarding the inbounds from Beard. That made a difference. Little steals, pokeaways, knocked balls out of bounds. That's his game. It's not going to be getting back down in the paint and standing your ground, but it harkens back to the days where Syracuse had very lengthy guards at the top of that 2-3 zone who could jump passing lanes and make things disruptive. Obviously, they're going with a man-to-man approach now, but that length still really matters to jump in those passing lanes. And when it comes to the full court press, Anthony was a big part of that because he used that length.
Hudson, if you're 7 feet tall, I'm 6'5". That one is true. I am 6'5". I'm just kidding. But Kyan Anthony, another thing he really focused on after that big game against Delaware State was free throw shooting. As a team, it looked kind of suspect early on. It definitely did, Alex. But when you look at it, when the dust settled, they were 11 for 15. I think this is a thing they've effectively worked on so far. I mean, granted, we want to see a little more consistency. We want to see them get to the line a little bit more, in my opinion. But I think that 11 for 15 ain't half bad.
It's better than we expected.
You missed 4 free throws. You made 11.
But you especially mentioned of getting to the line. For a team that plays in transition, it seems like that number should be higher.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're getting to the rack, too. Nate Kings went 0 of 2 from the line, and he's a guy that's supposed to be a high-percentage career shooter. We talked about his shooting struggles earlier. 0 for 2 from the line, not good. Donnie Freeman missed one, and Kyan Anthony missed one. But overall, the free throw shooting was fine. We talked about it last night on Sports Night, 8 to 9 every Friday, that this team is not a good free throw shooting team, but neither is Drexel. And if you shoot free throws better, you'll probably win the game. Was that the difference in this game? No. But did Syracuse shoot free throws better than Drexel? Yes.
I will say Drexel had a lot of free throws, especially in the first half, because SU was fouling a ton. Is there a little too much aggression on the defensive side right now?
No, I think the defensive struggles early on in fouling were trying to catch up to cuts and stuff they did not expect. Syracuse struggled against what is called a Princeton-style offense. That is what Drexel runs. It's a lot of backdoor cuts. It's a lot of movement off the ball. It's smart heads-up play. Now, Drexel's offense has not done well with that this year, but they still run that system, and Syracuse was kind of slow to adapt early on. Once they did, and they started to get in their rhythm a little bit more and not let Drexel get into its half-court sets, Syracuse did a much better job while playing a more aggressive defense, I would argue. I think Syracuse was playing aggressive early on defense, like you said, Alex, but I think it was more of a mental thing of having lapses in certain places, not being ready for backdoor cuts and having to turn around and foul a guy.
Man, Hudson, is part of that Princeton offense getting offensive rebounds too, though?
No.
Excuse me. I mean, there were times, we've been talking about this early in the show, where Drexel would get second, third, fourth chances on possessions. And to me, I don't like the fact that they're getting these offensive boards, but the reason they're getting them is because Syracuse is so aggressive on defense that they're helping out under the basket. William Kyle is switching and contesting and jumping really high in the air to contest these shots. They're all gambling. I honestly think these are safe bets.
And not in the manner that other basketball players have gambled earlier in this year. Shout out Chauncey Billups.
Come on,
but they're gambling on the defensive end quite a bit with William Kyle, going up for these block shots. Having one guy go up for a block and then William Kyle try to follow him behind, and he gets out of position and you get out rebound on the offensive glass. I think some of the mistakes on that figure, 18 offensive rebounds for Drexel. They only had 21 on the defensive end. So that shows you a lot of it was air balls. Drexel was airballing shots or it'd take a weird bounce off the rim and then you get the rebound.
Again, I hate to call these mistakes because it's not like Syracuse isn't boxing out. It's just by design, they are a team that is going to overcommit almost schematically.
But when you gamble in Las Vegas, that doesn't go well for a lot of people.
Come on now.
I mean, when you gamble against these big-time teams, I don't know if that's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, it's something they have to consider when they get to that point. I think there are going to be a lot bigger issues than the gambling quote on the defensive end and trying to erase shots with blocks and not boxing out for rebounds on the defensive end. I think the issues are going to be a lot bigger than that when you take on some of these teams. But it is something to consider, the fact that, okay, maybe William Kyle shouldn't try to go out of his way to block every single thing, especially when you have a paint presence. When Soiree is in the game and he has a good contest on a shot, there's absolutely no reason William Kyle should try to follow that up 3 feet above that and try to swat that off the glass. He's going to start getting goaltending calls if that happens. They just need to have a refocus on the defensive end in terms of what it means to rebound defensively. I think they'll be fine, though, if they do.
Yeah, I think William Kyle's just kind of used to being the defensive anchor. He'll have to learn as the season goes on to play with a Soiree on the floor because, in theory, they kind of play the same position. Soiree has less of an offensive bag, of course, but William Kyle just, I guess they have to learn how to play defense together. Hudson, before we let you go, just one final thought on this game.
One final thought on this game. I think Syracuse, once the bench and the energy got into it, learned a very valuable lesson that if you are in a close game but you're making mistakes, you can feed off the energy that your team provides and really do well. That's the lesson that I have. Now, guys, I know you have to get on to somebody else. Jish, you're a Philly guy, though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for a cheesesteak spot. I really don't know.
I'm not from the city of Philadelphia. I feel like a fake Philly guy that I can't just pull out one. I mean, the touristy one is like De Alessandro's, that kind of one. Gino's Steaks, of course, is the one that everyone knows about. So if you want to be a tourist, go to those spots. If you want like a real local spot, ask Nick Evans. He should be right there. He'll hook you up.
He'll give me a good one.
Give you a good one.
Appreciate
Hudson, get you a good cheesesteak. We've still got you on the air on WAER Syracuse on this double overtime up until 7:30. That was Hudson Ridley, our reporter for the day. Thank you so much. On the other side of this break, Alex and I are going to have a little bit of fun. We're playing a game called Ringing the Bell. It's very Philly themed. Don't go anywhere. The double overtime continues after this.
I'm clear.
Hannah Cohen and her band join us on this week's Mountain Stage. We'll also hear Carolina Funk from Boulevards, Alt Pop's Amy Milan, plus the latest from Lara Lynn and Oyo.
Hi, this is Hannah Cohen. Join us this week in live performance on Mountain Stage.
Sunday from noon to 2 on 88.3 FM WAER.
President Trump's war on higher ed has the headlines. Community colleges see an upside.
Huge opportunities for students in our area. If you've got technician connected to your job title, you're going to do well right now in this economy.
The fact that we do offer trades, this might be a moment in time where we get better recognition.
That and all the news, Sunday on Weekend Edition from NPR News.
Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WAER.
Thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying this WAER sports broadcast. Our sports staff goes where the teams go, home and away, and prepare for days before each game broadcast. Our talk show and podcast hosts analyze games, pore over stats, and keep up on sports trends. These and many behind-the-scenes opportunities are made possible by listener donations. So if you're a fan or an alum, donate to keep our sports legacy strong at WAER.org and click Donate.
Kyan Anthony, left end, fadeaway jumper, it's true. From 2 steps off the right block, Syracuse hits its first 2 shots of the half.
Welcome back into the double overtime. Syracuse men's basketball trounces Drexel 80-50 alongside Jish Sokolsky. My name's Alex Burstein. We've enjoyed hearing from all of you about this game, Syracuse beating Drexel, but there's a lot of games still to come from Syracuse, and Luke from Cicero has some thoughts on the upcoming ACC play. Luke, what do you have for us?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Hey, I'm calling about the guard play that we've seen this year. I think it's reflective upon the recruiting that we've had the last number of years. And one of your previous callers was talking about Carmelo Anthony potentially being a head coaching candidate if things went south this year for the team. I think that if we had Carmelo Anthony as a head coach, we might be able to get 5-star recruits, which in recent memory has been very difficult for the program to get. If you can't find 5 stars just walking around in this NIL era. You need a name, you need a podcast, you need guys that'll bring them in.
Sadiq White,
and
My only concern was we saw guys like Patrick Ewing go back to Georgetown, and that didn't really work. I guess Melo is more in tune with the younger generation, but I don't know if power alone is going to bring people in.
But Patrick Ewing was out of it. That guy had Alzheimer's at the time. He could not coach. Like that. This is not the era. Melo is involved. If you've seen him on NBC, he's been fantastic. Melo's been intuitive. He's involved in the game. He showed up to the game early, a couple hours early. I think he doesn't have to go on the recruiting trail, but if one of your scouts gets you in front of a 5-star and you bring Melo in to have dinner with the mom, Melo's going to close that, with all due respect.
Well, thank you so much, Luke, for your call. Definitely a lot to think of whenever Syracuse needs a head coach in the future. Who knows?
Hopefully it won't be
after
after this offseason.
I mean, if Syracuse makes the NCAA tournament, Adrian Autry will almost 100% be back. So a lot to think about, but there's a long way to go until we get to that point and the NCAA tournament in March. Let's take a step back to today's game, and we have a little fun to have with a new game we have called Ring the Bell. Obviously, in the city of brotherly love today, the Liberty Bell. And Syracuse has had some big games, some big wins so far, but it's time to go over some hot takes and whether we're ringing the bell and telling everyone about them or if we should quiet down a little bit on them. And our producer, Timmy Weiss, is here to talk about it. Timmy, what do you have for us?
Alex, first question for you right here. Are you going to ring the bell on Kiyan Anthony as a starter even when J.J. Starling returns?
Nate, go ahead and ring that bell for me. Ring that bell for me. For Jish Sokolsky, I say yes. When J.J. Starling returns, Kiyan Anthony will still be a starter. Now, that's not to say he replaces it. There it is. Boom. Let the world know that Kiyan Anthony has earned his starting spot, and I think it would be a foolish endeavor to try and bench him at this point. Let's be real about this, right? He has produced so well, basically starting these last 3 games. He has connection and plays with a lot of chemistry with this starting lineup, and this team has dominated their first 3 games. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Is there a way to maybe get J.J. Starling in the lineup, maybe as a 3, maybe move Kiyan to the 3? Absolutely. I think you can. I think they're both fast. They both can swipe the ball. They both play fast. If Syracuse wants to play fast, you can have both of them on the floor. Have Nate Kings be kind of your spark plug off the bench. Either way, there's going to be a lot of talent to spread. I still think that at this point, Kiyan Anthony has earned that starting spot.
Jish, I'm going to use your own words against you from earlier when you said that Syracuse would not have had this slow start if who was on the court? J.J.
Yeah, but how'd they
Starling.
finish?
It doesn't matter how they finish. This is a question about starters, not finishers. Syracuse and their starting 5 needs to have J.J. Starling in it because he's the heart and soul of this team. He's one of the captains. He has played through a couple of really bad seasons with Syracuse basketball. You need to have him on the court. Yes, Anthony has been great, but he will be just as good off the bench as he is as a starter.
All the criticisms, though, of Kiyan Anthony coming into the year that he was just going to take dumb shots, he was going to be a ball hog, possessions would end with him. These are some critiques that people were lofting at Kiyan Anthony, have been kind of true about J.J. Starling. That's why people thought he projected so well as his backup, because J.J. Starling, and yes, I get it, last year, the team around him maybe wouldn't be the best to really be facilitating for his teammates, but J.J. Starling is kind of a guy where possessions would start and end with him. You kind of swing the rock to him, and he might get you a bucket, and he probably will. He's very aggressive. I like J.J. Starling's game, but I think he could be one of those bench leaders. I think you need somebody on the bench with some experience to kind of lead that unit. I think either J.J. Starling is a kind of a combo like 2-3 in this era of Syracuse basketball, or he comes off the bench to back up the 18-year-old Kyan Anthony. I believe that.
I don't know if J.J. Starling is quite a 3, so I guess we're half ringing the bell for this first
I'm ringing
one.
it. Your bell is silent right now.
What's our second question here?
Well, guys, I love the disagreement that we got going on right here. The second question for you on if we're going to ring the bell, we talked about 2 good scorers, but is Donnie Freeman the best scorer on the Orange?
Yeah, I'm ringing the
You're
bell.
ringing the bell?
100% on this. He had 20 points in each of the first 2 games. Today, a little bit of a drop-off, and he still had 13 points in 28 minutes. And it's because we talked about it. He's a multi-level scorer. And sure, there's some things to clean up, but he's young. He's a sophomore in college who barely played his first year. Once he has everything cleaned up, he has the chance to be a guy who can score in the paint, who can score mid-range, and score from deep. Ring that bell
Yeah,
loudly.
you know what, Nate? Go ahead. Ring that bell one more time for me. Ring that Liberty Bell. I do still believe Donnie Freeman, who scored 20 points in the first 2 games, is still the best scorer on the team. I think that he just has the ability to do everything. His shot selection, I still think, needs some polish. I still think he needs to find himself, make himself open, use his physicality, his body a little more, get himself some easier looks. But the fact that he can make tough shots gives him that edge to me. I think Kyan can take over if he continues at this pace sometime in the season, just because of how crafty he is, how well he understands defensive leverage and getting downhill. I think Kyan can take it over, but right now, where we stand on November 15th at 7:13 p.m., Donnie Freeman is still, by a hair, SU's best scorer.
Very different types of scorers, but we both ring the bell on that one. What's our next question?
All right, we're going to keep the fun rolling right here. We're talking about the offense still. Is Syracuse's offense as good as it seems after the first couple games, having some struggles today, though?
You can keep that bell a little silent.
I think we should stop talking for a second. Those crickets, that's no bell being rung, because Syracuse still put up 80 points today after struggling for 20 minutes. This team showed that with this transition offense, it can be really, really lethal. 43 second half points. Maybe not as complete of a performance as was in the first 2 games, but this is a Syracuse team that has finally figured out how to score baskets consistently, and no one expected that 4 weeks ago, so definitely not ringing the bell here.
I mean, to quote former NFL head coach about the Chicago Bears, they are who we thought they were. That's what Dennis Green said about the Chicago Bears.
Go Bears.
Just because this is a Syracuse team coming in, yeah, you could point a few 3-point shooters there. I just don't think that this team is put anything on paper that says they're worse than what we thought they could be. Honestly, I think expectations coming into the season were too low. Maybe we got a little intoxicated by the first 2 games that they scored a lot in those games. They still dropped 80 points with a monstrous 43-14 outscoring in the second half. Like, yeah, a lot of that's defense, but their defense creates their offense. Just because they aren't scoring necessarily in the traditional ways that many people would have hoped for, I still think that they aren't as bad. Like they are probably just as good as we thought they were.
I will take 80 points
every day. And you know what?
From Syracuse.
Good thing that you're watching Syracuse, because they will give you 80 points every day they've played so far.
Well, one more question here. One final opportunity to ring the bell. Do you guys think that Syracuse will win a game in Vegas? Obviously, some very tough competition upcoming there.
I'm ringing the bell.
You know what? Give me 2 big booms. Ring that bell for me, too.
I mean, sure, this is hard, but Syracuse has showed up to each of these games. Maybe it wasn't in the first 5 minutes. Maybe it wasn't in the entire first half, but Syracuse has dominated 3 opponents now. Sure, this is a completely different team that Syracuse will be playing in Houston, Kansas, and the TBD, but let's look at the different scenarios. Houston, I don't think SU's getting a win. Kansas, number 25, a borderline top 25 team, the Orange have a chance against. And let's say they don't win that. In the 0-2 game, SU is not going to be playing a ranked opponent. The Orange have 2 really good chances to win a game. And Adrian Autry has talked about how net rankings are so important and how the team is really playing to that. He knows how important this week in Vegas is. And he knows for the team, for his job security, for March Madness hopes, you need to get a win, and SU will get at least one of them.
Syracuse is a team that plays kind of like Rick Pitino's St. John's, if you will. Maybe they're not shooting the three ball as well as you thought. It's a team that can compete with any team on any given night because of their defensive intensity. This is a team that I think could maybe sneak out a win over a team that might be a little bit more highly regarded than them. Regardless, this is a team that's been talking since the preseason about net rankings, about what every non-conference game means. There's no way Adrian Autry is not going to have his team riled up to an extra notch for what could be a signature win of the season that would get Syracuse into national conversations. Syracuse will be fighting for its life, and I'm excited to see what a Syracuse team against the ropes, because we haven't seen that yet, what they play like. But when a team plays with this much energy, even when things aren't going well, like that first half where things just were awkward, a little disjointed, the fact that they didn't get down on themselves and kept the pedal to the metal, it makes me think that when they are down, they are not out. And I think they can sneak a win by because, men's basketball is madness in college.
And I'll add one more point to that. And not only is Syracuse going to win a game in Vegas, SU's also gained some revenge on Tennessee, a Volunteers team that's already taken a slight dip in the polls, number 20 right now.
They lost a lot of talent,
too. Tennessee has dominated them the last couple of years. This is not the same Tennessee team, and SU is going to get a top 25 win in the next 2 weeks.
Whew.
That's all the time we have for this game of Ring the Bell, but that was fun. We got some good ringing going.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, man, Philadelphia, if you can only put it in one picture, it's definitely that Liberty Bell. I'm glad we got to ring it. Maybe add a couple more cracks to it as well, Alex.
Well, just about 10 minutes to go until we are all wrapped up here on the double overtime, but we have some final words to go over after a quick break. You're listening to the double overtime here on WAER.
Hi, this is Tracy, Director of Development. Public radio stations around the country are navigating uncertainty about their future funding. Federal funding made up 11% of WAER's overall budget, equaling $175,000. Since this involves the elimination of already allocated funding, the effects will be swift. Funding from our Central New York community is the largest and most reliable source of support, and the power is in your hands right now to make a huge impact. Please join us at WAER.org.
Thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying this WAER sports broadcast. Our sports staff goes where the teams go, home and away, and prepare for days before each game broadcast. Our talk show and podcast hosts analyze games, pore over stats, and keep up on sports trends. These and many behind-the-scenes opportunities are made possible by listener donations. So if you're a fan or an alum, donate to keep our sports legacy strong at WAER.org and click Donate.
Anthony hides behind the Soiree screen, dribbles right, jump stop at the paint, floater off glass is good. Kyan Anthony just continues to add to the point total. He's up to 10 on the day.
We're just about ready to close up shop here on the double overtime. Alex Burstein, I am Jish Sokolsky. Before we go, we want to preview a little bit of Monmouth, but we're not done talking about this Drexel game. Syracuse won it 80-50 over the team from Philadelphia. We have a caller, Bill from Manlius, wants to talk about injury concerns when you're blowing teams out that big. How concerned are you with injuries?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Sure.
I just want to say, with J.J. Starling already having the injury bug this year, and I know he's dealt with that in the past, and now, Tyler Betsy going down in today's game, I'm really starting to have some serious questions and doubts about our strength and conditioning program. I mean, look at Chance Westry. He spent the last 2 years, riding the bench with injuries. He played like 5 games for Syracuse. All of a sudden, he transfers to UAB, and he's dropped 20-plus points in 3 of the last 4 games. I mean, this isn't preschool here. Like, we got to get these guys out on the floor. They need to be tough. They need
Chance
to fight
Westry,
through the pain.
He came into Syracuse after tearing his ACL at Auburn. He already came in with these injury concerns, and I disagree. I think the conditioning has been good, and that's they're just playing really fast, and that's a reason why every now and then you're going to get players that get dinged up. It doesn't seem like the J.J. Starling injury is that serious, and it didn't really seem like the Tyler Betsy one was that serious either. He walked off under his own power.
Not to mention Syracuse's new strength and conditioning coach, Robert Harris, has experience at Kentucky, Arkansas, and Ohio State, and those teams have done pretty well in the past.
I'm talking here. I do know how to say.
I mean, the injuries, they are a little concerning early on, but when you're blowing teams out, and I guess, you run the risk when you keep your starters in that late. That was something that I came to mind during the Binghamton game, at least, where they were still running full court press with like 4 minutes to go. It was already out of the reach.
But none of the injuries have been late.
None of the injuries have been late.
And none of them have
early.
been severe.
Yeah.
I mean, Starling's close to being
Hopefully,
back.
He was a game time decision today.
So
that's an
you
indication.
have to imagine he's somewhat close.
Right. Well, hopefully he'll come back for this Monmouth game. A team that is not very good as well. They are, according to Ken Palm, analytics site, the 235th ranked team, which would actually be the highest ranked team that Syracuse has played. Drexel was ranked 252. They were the highest coming in. So, it's a very similar level of competition. So, I don't know, Alex. I just expect Syracuse to win by at least 30. And if they don't, I guess you can't split hairs too much, but they've won every game by at least 30. This one should be another one of the same.
As long as the Syracuse players get a full 8 hours of sleep before this 9 p.m. tip-off.
Ugh. Yeah, I don't like that.
It'll be okay.
I mean, hey, Monmouth's from New Jersey. New Jersey plays with a little bit of an edge. How you doing? They're from the Jersey Shore, if you will. It's a school that is right on the shore. Hopefully they're locked in. They're not on the beach all the time. Nah, I'm just kidding. Monmouth is a team that's played Syracuse before. Actually, the last time Syracuse and Monmouth played, did you know this? The same night that Syracuse men's soccer won its national championship.
How about that?
I remember the Dome was kind of crazy that day. Half of the Dome was there to watch Monmouth versus Syracuse. Syracuse won that game by around 30. The other half of the Dome was watching Giorgio Krzyzewski and company in penalty kicks, holding their breaths against Indiana to seal it. That was back in 2022. A really fun experience. There were definitely more people there supporting soccer than the basketball. But I think there's going to be more fans there than there have been for non-con games in the past because people just keep hearing about how exciting the Syracuse
There's
team
some
is.
excitement in
Might as well delve into it. Might as well see it for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, once a team starts to win games and win them convincingly, that's when fans go,
and
this is worth paying money for.
They should win this game convincingly, too. Monmouth is a team that just lost to Seton Hall by 12, which SU is a better team than Seton Hall, the bottom feeders of the Big East there. All right, we've got about 6 minutes left in show till we have to get off the airwaves, so Alex, I got to know, before we get off the air, what's something you have to say before we wrap up shop?
Well, just remember when you're 16 and you just have your driver's license and you get behind the wheel, it's a little bit shaky. You're a little nervous. You roll through a stop sign. Something goes wrong. And then a few months later, you're all confident. You're cool as a cucumber behind the wheel. A couple weeks ago, Syracuse just got its driver's license. The new season started, new players kind of really figuring things out. It's time for Syracuse to be comfortable behind the wheel and to play at its own pace. The Orange did not play at its own pace for the first 20 minutes of this one, and it really showed. Drexel slowed the game down, and as a result, the Dragons only trailed by 5 at halftime. But after that, it was all SU. The Orange took control and drove their way to a 30-point victory by playing that transition offense and showing it's their game to play, and we're going to enforce that on you. If Syracuse can play at its own pace, this team has a lot of possibilities for the future, and all it takes is just a little bit of confidence.
There are a lot of possibilities and a lot of opportunities as well, Alex. We keep talking about it, the big Vegas trip, playing teams like Tennessee, like Houston, like Kansas. There are so many opportunities. This is maybe the most stacked non-conference Syracuse slate has been in a long time. I mean, the Maui Invitational a couple years ago had a similar level of competition. But this is a Syracuse team going in this time where it doesn't feel like it's a done deal that they're going to lose these games. Syracuse fans have been very, very, very optimistic about the Syracuse team, and they absolutely should be. Sure, Syracuse is beating up on bad teams. Sure, that's the number one trap to get a fan base's heart ripped out of its chest. But this is a Syracuse team that's built on a couple of identities, a couple of foundations that championship caliber teams are made of. Great defense, great energy, and fast pace. Those are the three pillars of this Syracuse team. And when you have those three pillars, you can compete with any team in the country. This is not to say Syracuse is the next national champion. They're going to beat every ranked team. We have to see it first to believe it. But don't be surprised if Syracuse waltzes into Vegas, plays their style of up-tempo, high-energy, defensive basketball with all the right pieces in place and a true identity. This is a Syracuse team that is not going to get blown out by Houston like it did last year by Tennessee and Maryland. This is a team that's going to compete just as it did against, say, Texas and Texas Tech last year. That's how good this Syracuse team is, and they're going to, as long as they stay healthy, be consistent about that.
When Mary from Syracuse called almost 2 hours ago and said Syracuse is back, I got some goosebumps.
I did too.
It seems like Syracuse may just have that punch for the first time in a long time.
It's a foreign feeling, this feeling in your gut. It's hope. What is that? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that this hope is not unfounded from Syracuse fans. Thank you so much for tuning into our double overtime and hoping just a little bit with Alex Burstein and myself. You can tune into our next broadcast this Tuesday, the 18th, when Syracuse takes on Monmouth. The game is at 9 p.m. Our McClure remodeling countdown to tip-off starts at 8:30. That double overtime is a doozy. Please drink your coffee, get your sleep beforehand to listen to Drew Albaugh and Dan Shalom on the double overtime all the way up until 1 o'clock in the morning. That's right. This Syracuse team should better fill that time, and they will against a team like Monmouth. Our next football broadcast, that will be next Saturday, a week from today, November 22nd, against number 9 Notre Dame, who just completely obliterated Pittsburgh today. They might be moving up in the rankings. That game's at 3:30. McClure remodeling countdown to kickoff is at 3 o'clock. Syracuse looking to shake off this doozy of a 6-game losing streak. It might not come against the Fighting Irish, Alex.
It felt kind of nice to have a Saturday here. And
just talking
Syracuse
basketball,
football
right?
Did not blow something up, so we'll see if they can keep that going next weekend.
A huge thank you to our producer, Timmy Weiss, our engineer and sports talk director, Luke Burgess, our reporter, Hudson Ridley, who you heard earlier in the show, and, of course, our talented team behind the scenes, Nate Martin, Augie Walters, and Jake Bowen. None of this would be possible without you, and it wouldn't be possible without you, Alex Burstein. I'm Jish Sokolsky saying so long, Syracuse beats Drexel 80-50.